I think it's recording. Yep. Yeah, and the mics probably aren't going to project, so.
Oh, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Okay, good morning. I'm calling this meeting to order. Board Secretary, trustee DeWalt.
Trustee Lee Reader.
President.
Gilbert.
Present.
Abdus.
Here.
Baines.
Here.
Arandis.
Here.
Perez.
Present.
Smith.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, on to the approval of the agenda and changes.
Results.
Wait a second.
None from staff.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those
It's been on
opposed,
all morning.
then set. Trustee Thompson, so we lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And do we have any conflict of interest? Seeing that, moving on to presentation,
No scheduled presentations today,
moving on to public comments.
if I can get there. I have not received any public comment prior to the meeting.
Or comment one, people from three, over to general.
Thank you. First up is the general manager's report. Again, included information for that we get, trade and organization association attachments. There's a couple things of note in there. But I would like to start with recognizing Veterans Day and our two veterans on the board in Tom Gilbert and Tom Smith. Thank you so much for your sacrifice and service to this country. My father also served in Vietnam, and I didn't know him obviously before he went in, but my mother said he was a changed man, and you never quite get over it. So thank you so much from myself, on behalf of the district and the community and the nation. We great generation. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Moving on, I do want to point out a couple things. Meetings coming up. We are going to have anyway, we're going to have a holiday breakfast that we traditionally do. We skipped last year. And so we're going to do that on the December board meeting, and we're going to start that at 8 o'clock and push the board meeting till 9. So that way the crews can get in, mingle, eat, and then get on with their day to possibly be in flood mode. So another item of note, we do have a committee meeting, a couple of committee meetings scheduled. Finance committee on the 21st. We're working on the audit right now. The management discussion and analysis is one of the final pieces. Just a little preamble for the finance committee. A clean, unmodified opinion is what we're hearing back right now, with two things to note. One of them being the large deposit with the post office that we turned over and didn't end up using. And that had to do, we put a deposit down with the post office in a large amount because we were anticipating, we didn't know how many return ballots we get for the fee and for the trustee election. And so we used a portion of it. And I believe we have about 20,000,
15,000.
about 15,000 left on deposit with the post office. And so the auditor just notes that and what the plan is to bring those funds back. And the second item, it escapes me. It was minor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a minor transaction. So the finance committee will review that on the 21st. They'll also on that agenda look at our purchasing policy, a draft that we'll bring back that was on the auditor's notes from last year. So staff will present that. And then two RFPs that staff's working on that finance committee will review. One is for banking and investment services, and the other is for the annual fee and assessment administration. So when we decided to go with MBS at the conclusion of our fee, it was supposed to be seamless to move through, and we left SCI to handle the assessment. Speaking of the fee, the property tax bills have been hitting the mailboxes, and first installments are due. We did discover an error in the new fee. And so the district has 37,800 and some change properties. A subset of that was the fee was applicable to. So it was about 32,000 and some change. Unfortunately, between MBS and the county, they applied the fee to all parcels, not the smaller amount. So there were 4,535 parcels that the fee went to. Most of them are single family residents. A large portion are the county. And so we've been working with MBS as soon as we discovered that. So like the Garden Highway folks, they don't participate in the fee because they discharge to the river. Likewise, with the city of Sacramento down here, the city provides the stormwater pumping for them. So those parcels didn't receive a Prop 218 ballot and are not subject to the fee per the board's resolution and our 218 process. So Sutter County, there were 38 parcels there. The corrections have been issued with Sutter County. We included a cover letter that's going with those corrections being mailed out. Sacramento County, we've been working with all week. I'm due to this afternoon go through a postcard that we intend to mail ahead of the revised tax bill. And then there's a couple little forms. I filled out forms earlier this week with Sacramento County. And then there's a couple other things that they need to hear back from me on, and we'll get that finalized. But the result is those property owners the fee shouldn't have applied to will have a correction. And if they've already paid, if they paid in full or the first installment, they will get reimbursement or a credit for that, depending on where they're at with escrow's already paid it. So those are the steps we want to make sure are clear from the county to the parcels or the parcel owners, and we'll send out that postcard post haste. It's unfortunate. We did in the QA/QC before we submitted, we made sure that those Sutter County parcels that were such a pain in the error originally were classified as ag and not vacant. So that was good. Everything lined up APN wise, and we just missed the total that got submitted over. So kind of easy fix on the administrative side, but a little bit of confusion. So we're receiving some phone calls. In fact, I was first alerted to the issue by a Garden Highway resident. And so we're responding to those. MBS is also on the tax bill, the contact. And so they're fully aware, apologize, and they are going to pay for the postcard, the mailing, and the correction. And it may even be a net zero to them at the end of the day, but they jumped on it right away. And once I determined the extent of the problem. So resolutions in process. Any questions on that? I need to review final language today, and hopefully MBS can print and mail Monday or Tuesday next week. Given the holiday today is like,
Scott.
Yeah, I'll have Scott and Rebecca double check it. Sorry, Nick, I can see the look of disgust or disappointment. I was pretty disappointed too, because it was just supposed to be very easy and seamless. So lastly, Safeca is having, and I'm speaking to you and you, it's not our fault, but Safeca is having quorum issues regularly at their board meetings. And so Lindy, I think, sends out that request in coordination for your alternates. If you're not going to be there, either let me know and I can coordinate with the two of them so that we have two members on the Safeca board so they can continue their business just as a courtesy. Christine, will you turn that air conditioning down or up? And then for our board meetings in the packet, and Scott will probably get to it as an attachment, there's some revisions to the Brown Act coming up. And so if you plan to travel or not attend the board meeting, I'm going to send out on the Friday before the board meeting, so that, or probably Thursday afternoon. So look for an email from me individually. If you're not going to be gone or you want to participate remotely, we'll coordinate that, and we have to agendize and notice it properly. So things happen. if you're gone or family emergency, totally understand, but work through me and we'll get the agenda posted, and then we don't have a quorum issue, and most of the time we don't. So just a couple heads up on that. And then we also will be meeting with the Thomas Mutual Water Company for our 2x2 meeting on November 21st as well. It's a very busy day right before Thanksgiving, but we're going to meet with them. We have a few things to discuss. One being the security patrol. We're working, Gabe's got a draft in my inbox on an RFQ, and we're going to continue to work with TMBC and the water company, but a different format of that agreement so that they can custom tailor their own needs for their security services. And we'll probably step back a little bit on the district-wide security, although because we have video surveillance locations now, and we're continuing NIMDEC. Speaking of NIMDEC, we've done our complete removal from Arden Garden Connector up to Maine. We continue to do the security patrol, and reestablishment of those encampments has not occurred yet. However, we still continue the ping pong effect behind Home Depot and then over to the Cove. And so part of that security patrol will be regularly doing that, as opposed to other areas. I don't want to talk in great detail, but we intend to do that. But as soon as we move them from behind Home Depot, they start showing up at the Cove, then it's 3 weeks or longer, and then they move back and forth. So we're going to work on a longer term strategy for that. But the city, again, has been tremendous in this effort, and they're doing the best they can. And so is Gabe and the rest of his staff on keeping on top of this.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yes, sir.
When we go to these homes, and we go with the impact team, correct? And their community resource officers, right, forgetting their active designation, offer services to these individuals, these encampments. So does that happen every time? And if they refuse to the assistance?
Yeah, affirmative, Nick. So what happens is we have to provide 2 72-hour notices. And so we enlist the help of the city of Sacramento when we do those notices. And then if they haven't vacated the site by the time we come to do our work, then the city will remove them from the location so that we can continue with our operations and maintenance. So I feel very, very good about the situation on NIMDEC. We did complete our annual cleanup with the Water Quality Control Board, which we reported on last month. Lastly, trustee training certifications. Just a reminder, I passed out the sheet last week. Nick, I know you were gone, or last month you were gone, but we've been coordinating this week. If you do happen to get a cert from another organization, send it to us. And then that qualifies, and we'll update our records. Also, and I did it for Elena because I had her dates of her most recent. I sent out a 2-year reminder a month ahead of the due date, and then a week following up with all the instructions. CSDA is a free certification training. However, it's a little bit cumbersome to get into it. I can't register you. You have to do it through your own login and profile. And if you need help getting that, in my email and calendar invite will include a contact with CSDA, or call us and we'll get you set up. And then you just have to go to my webinars. You have to register, add to your cart. It's $0. And then you immediately have access to those certifications. The goal would be to get everybody at least on record, get our records done, and you guys be in compliance by the end of the year. So
One year, every year, or every 2 years?
Every 2 years.
Okay.
And so the 2 trainings are sexual harassment and ethics. And so both of the webinars by CSDA, they're on demand, so they're not live. So at the end of the sexual harassment training, there's a 10-question true or false, and you get to repeat the test until you get 100% correct without having to rewatch the webinar. At the end of the ethics training, there's 1 true or false question, and it simply asks, do you certify that you attended and watched the whole session? So do what you want with that information, but and if you need help, just reach out and let me know. So I appreciate you guys.
Maintenance question on NEMDEC. So I noticed some activity, I think it's state DWR, that was cleaning the channel, or not cleaning, mowing. Because one of the tractors got stuck north of Maine. You guys know this incident? They buried that thing, and I was curious. I'm still focused on that state EWR because they went in right after the last rain event. But it was clearing the vegetation, was it, I mean, is that something they're coordinating with us, or is there a reason they're doing it now? It kind of made me think is.
Yeah, Nick, I don't know the answer to that question. Gabe's on vacation today. And so he'd be better off, and I can follow up with
Yeah.
you on that specifically when he returns from vacation next week. So we'll make note of it, and then I'll make sure we follow up with you.
Okay.
Can we go back to the two, you said there were two items, so the first is the group, what's the second?
The second is our progress on, again, the aquatic vegetation removal. And also long-term, the agreement between the water company and RD 1000 is very limiting for RD 1000 for us to do maintenance work. And if you recall from the adoption of our capital improvement plan, we should be replacing between 25 and 50 culverts per year, just to keep up with life cycle. They vary in size. And so the problem is that once it stops raining, we have a limitation for GGS in certain areas, giant gardener snake, of May 1st. And then, it's the irrigation season and our drainage channels are full for irrigation purposes. And then all the way through November 1st, which were restricted again by flood season. So we want to coordinate more with the water company in future years once we have some money to do the culvert replacements, and just put it on a schedule and work through that with bypasses or workarounds and just get that coordinated. So I want to give Brett and his crew a heads up that that's planning. And in that regard, our two lead operators this year, Beto and Mike, they're going to be armed with a GPS device, and they're going to start doing a condition assessment when things are slow and they're running floodwater. They're going to start going and doing a condition assessment with various fields to fill out: diameter, condition, date of install, so that we have it in our GIS system and we can start prioritizing that list and then share that with the mutual company. We did have a culvert failure right after the start of the irrigation season. And so the culvert ran underneath their irrigation canal, and they were losing 50% of the water into our ditch. Fortunately, they're able to pump back, but that's the crux of it there. Any other questions? Yes.
Do we have a rep on their board to keep track of what Natomas Mutual is doing?
No.
Okay.
But we do have the 2x2, the biannual 2x2 meetings. So it's our executive committee and their choosing of their board members. And then Gabe meets on a bi-weekly basis during the irrigation season with their superintendent Shane, and they coordinate these things. But we're talking longer term planning and lots of heads up for them. Yeah. So, yes, Ed.
Kevin, the access road behind Home Depot, is there a gate in there? Because I see a lot of RVs there, and I would imagine if we had a gate place to keep them out. Not the tent, but.
There are some physical barriers there. The trouble is the operation of them, and getting our partner agencies and ourselves to adhere to an operating standard that keeps the site secure. And so we're working through with those agencies. Instead of us continuing to do this, do we need to put a better physical barrier in there? B, do we need to do training and education of our staff, i.e., when you open a gate, close the gate, make sure it's locked. I can tell you, even if it's locked, and Nick has firsthand experience on this on East Levy Road, we probably replace about 500 locks a year district-wide, and sometimes daily on certain locations. So we're engineering better devices. However, where there's a will, there's a way. So we're doing the best we can, but it's coordination with those other agencies as well.
And then the only other one is the city council agenda had something about a piece of property next door to us. That they're declaring surplus. Is that one, the storage?
I think it's just right next door,
Or
the dark facility. They've been talking about this for a couple of years now, and apparently it was a federal government site, and then they gave it over to the city, but if the city no longer got a use for it, it reverts back to the federal government. And so I think there's some nuance there still working through. Any other questions for me? Yes, sir.
Quickly, in your notes, you said the city stopped working on some 58. I couldn't find 58. It says they discontinued work. You didn't say they fixed anything or?
Yeah, this is it's a concern for us, and we're working with the city and Safeco to get that buttoned up for the flood season. It's on NIMDEC.
Okay, so it is needed.
Yeah.
Okay, one other general question as I went through the report, you talked about all the development down at the airport, all the warehouse space. Boy, that's a lot of paved area. Are we picking that up? Then they're dumping into our canals or run.
Yeah, we're working with the developer for the development impacts. So our engineering team and in-house operations team work through those things. We put conditions of approval on those developments, and depending on the land use, once it's finalized and converted, then the county land use codes will apply with whatever their use is, and they'll be subject to the ISC factor for that appropriate land use code with our new fee.
I have one last comment, 2x2, I'll look forward to a kind of a summary in our next meeting. This water company is obviously one of our critical partners to the basin as the conservancy. And so it's a really important meeting, and
You bet.
On issues of mutual interest.
And our relationship with TMBC is going really well. John and I have met, and his staff member Jennifer, a few times, and they're looking forward to the security patrol RFQ and editing that. I stopped by their office the other day and gave them a water bottle and some leftover treats from our high water jamboree, so they're appreciative. So we're working on it.
Kevin, you mentioned a city pump. This is the one right down here, right? Station.
Well, there's 3 of them. It's
all of them exclude their constituents from this assessment.
correct.
So how, if they were failure in that system, how would that impact on grids?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. And this is part of the next evolution of the basin-wide hydraulic model, is to run through those scenarios and look at areas where we can have mutual benefit or cross ties with a larger capital improvement project, where if they have a failure, and we can run those models and play these scenarios out, given certain year types or flood types, given what's going on in the basin, so that we can have a plan of action ahead of that occurring.
Well, my question goes to, I know we're very aware of the condition of our infrastructure, and we monitor it very closely. Do they do the same for this?
Yes.
Council's report.
Good morning. The report's pretty light. It's been a light meeting, light month. The 3 items we worked on, Kevin all covered in his report. The further information to the board on the Brown Act and how to comply in terms of remote meetings, assisting on the stormwater fee billing or corrections, and also supporting Kevin and team on updating the investment policy.
One other item I want to add for Scott: immediately following the board meeting, as directed by the board during my annual evaluation process, to secure mentoring and training for executive staff, inclusive of myself, we will be meeting with a coach mentor that Scott's recommended, and to kick that off. And so I look forward to that meeting and to see what can evolve. A couple other notes on training. Next week, because I just got the flyer, there's some courses from CSDA that go through a broad-based certification process, and I plan, and it's remote, and I plan to enroll Jolene and Gabe in that, time permitting for them, but to get moving on that. In addition, Jolene, myself, and Christina started our first social media training yesterday, and it was through SkillPath, and I haven't had the best experience with SkillPath in the past. But this training was phenomenal. It was about 3.5 hours, and we got some really, really great insight and tips. It was a small class. There were only 7 participants, and we were 3 of them. And so a lot of the instructor's message was geared towards us and gave us a lot of things that Jolene and Christina and I were really jazzed after the meeting, and look forward to urbanization committee to share some of that stuff coming forward. Yeah. Oh, in that regard, Gabe was disappointed that he missed out because he assists in the field, and so does his staff in doing his posts and looking for ideas. So Jolene's going to enroll Gabe, Tony, in the 2 leads as well in that training. So we're all one team.
Consent calendar.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Consent calendar is approved. On to 6.1, recognition of service for the one Steve Sullivan.
Steve, I ran out of time this morning to put your picture up there and leave a note, but I made up for it with a plaque and presentation. But just for the board, Steve Sullivan with Mead and Hunt has been the district's engineer for a long time. Paul, thank you, Paul, put together the resolution. It's in your board packet. We won't embarrass Steve by reading the whole thing, but Steve has had a tremendous impact on the Natomas Basin and making sure that while the second most flood prone area in the nation, that we don't experience those things. And so Steve has retired, but like Paul, we're using him as much as we want. And I think Steve, to his benefit, wants to see completion of it in the project. And he's working on other things as well. But I can't thank you enough, Steve, personally, since my arrival and the education you've given me and Gabe. And it's just a really great partnership. And Jeff Cashwada here has taken over more of the administrative side. And these guys are just fantastic. I don't know how they get everything done between the core meetings, our meetings, and they just put stuff out. And I'm really happy. I'm sad as well, but I'm happy for Steve, and hopefully he can slow down a little bit. So Steve, if you'd like to step up to the podium there.
So I'm not going away, just slowing down, but you're in really good hands with Jeff.
Well, Steve didn't know why I invited him today. I told him the board has questions for him.
Yeah, why are you retiring?
And he's been around after the meeting. We'd like to get a picture with you and the board.
Oh, yeah.
And thank you. Thank you so much. So Jeff, we'll get some pictures after. But thank you so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. I know we're a little delayed. It's in June, but we have a lot of stuff going on in June and July. So thank you, Steve.
Well, great.
Paul, did you want to say anything?
I'll just say I've known Steve for 30 years here in Sacramento, came together, do stuff. You know, Steve represents Safe Care, represents the water company, but we know deep down inside, his number one client.
Stephen, yeah, we have comments from the board. I just want to say thank you for your years of service. I'm sure you've seen over the last 30 years, our district evolve and change. And you played a critical role in helping the district adapt to those changes. So I really, really hope you enjoy your time with your family. And just have the district.
Okay, thank you a lot. It's been a pleasure. I mean, this is one of my favorite assignments, you know, to work with the district. Been, I think, you know, it's the first month I came to Sacramento. My boss said, hey, can you go up and help Jim Clifton with some work on the Sacramento River levees that the Corps is doing? Left things a mess. You go out there and help them clean it up. And the very first thing that I came to Sacramento, working on the Sac River levees, and we're still working. 40 years later.
Well, thank you so much, Steve. And please stick around for a quick picture. Normally, post adjournment. Actually, you guys are grabbing your briefcases and headed out right away before the gavel strikes. So, yeah.
It is closed. And can I entertain a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved. Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? This is adopted.
I got so excited. I went out of order. If you didn't pass the resolution, I'd have to take it back. So thank you more for doing that. So, yeah, so this is what I was looking for earlier. Here's all the upcoming meetings. I listed them here, and what's due. So keep an eye on that. If you're on those committees, you'll get a calendar invite. I've been using the scheduling poll through Outlook. I hope that works well for everyone. I know we had some issues with not being able to log in or participate. And if that's the case, it's a new feature in Outlook. So I'm trying to use it. It on my end is tremendous, and not just for you guys, but for other meetings. So keep an eye out for that. And we got a busy end of the year coming up.
Section items, making a motion to start.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? You guys have fun. Okay.